Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier, Mike's Instant Movie Review. This is kind of a first. I'm doing another review for the movie I just saw that I already saw, did a review on, The Iron Claw. So this is my second time seeing it, and my third overall review. As you know, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, have been most of my life. I would say that I know this story pretty well just by being a wrestling fan. Some of you younger fans, maybe this is even new to you. The non-wrestling fans, it's all new. But for me, this Von Erich story of triumph, tragedy, life and death, I know the whole story, but it's I for one enjoy seeing this movie. How do you put it? Knowing the story of the deaths, the tragedies, the suicides of the Von Erich family, the Atkinson family, from the 80s into the early 90s, Kevin Von Erich remaining. I don't get... I think some people are getting very sad when they see this movie. For me, it's a triumph that this story is being told. The sadness, I've already experienced it as a fan of these wrestlers and this family. So I don't see it as a sad thing. I see it as a good thing. Kevin Von Erich especially has been speaking about wanting to have a movie made about his family since the mid-90s. And now that movie has happened. So I won't say all the things I said in the other reviews. I will say I've forgotten twice now to say what a wonderful job the actress Lily James did as Pam. I have been seeing Lily James, I want to say, in a couple of big horror films, but I go off the top of my head, I can't remember what they were. I know I've seen her in the last couple of years in movies. I don't watch a whole lot of TV series. I don't Netflix and chill. I've been getting into more TV series lately, but I've watched, I think it was called The Inventor, about the crazy lady with the blood and the invention, The Dropout, that series. That was really good. Kyra, wasn't trying to remember all these names of all these actresses. So yeah, I do watch some series, I guess, but a lot of the big series, I don't know what the fuck they are. But I like this movie a lot, so obviously I've seen it twice now. Also, just in case you're wondering, I saw this movie on a Wednesday night. Now it's basically 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning on a Thursday. If you go to the Wednesday night, this movie's starting at 10:35 at night. I'm the only person in the theater. I can take off my goddamn shoes, I can crack my neck, and no one's gonna fucking bother me. So for all you assholes out there that don't realize how goddamn fun it is to do things when the rest of the world is sleeping, I'm living, assholes. Okay? So anyway, what else? Yeah, Lily James does a really good job as Pam. I was correct the first time I saw it when the mom, Dottie, and I always thought her name was Doris. I thought her name was Doris Von Erich, not Dottie. I don't know if Dottie is a nickname for Doris, but I thought her name it was Doris Von Erich, or whatever the fuck. But basically, when Doris, the mom, is watching Kerry win the world title from Flair in '84, it is a shot of the ghost of David Von Erich watching from the steps. Other things in this movie, and a lot of things, what's kind of fun about seeing a movie the second time is that the shock value of all the things that when you saw the movie the first time, the things that you were expecting to see, and probably the things more so that you didn't see that you were hoping to see, and if this was a pure wrestling movie or a series, you could go into all these details about the Freebirds Von Erichs feud, the world class on television. I think in this movie they say that they had this Saturday night ESPN program. What I remember seeing was like an afternoon program, kind of, and a lot of rerun stuff. So maybe they did have a Saturday night program before my time a little bit. I don't know. Um, they don't go into the death of David. Everything is seen, like I said in my previous review, it's all seen from Kevin's perspective. Even at the beginning of the movie, when the two boys, I believe it's Kevin and David, they're in the back seat of their car watching their parents have this argument. Fritz is all wrapped up about getting the NWA World Heavyweight title for the family. He seems possessed by it. I did see one critique from a friend of mine, a nice gentleman, Sheldon Goldberg, I believe he was kind of taking issue with the movie's perspective on wrestling. Is it a work? Is it a shoot? It wasn't clear, and I can see Sheldon's point, especially because he's been a highly valuable wrestling promoter for decades himself. I, however, enjoyed that vagueness or that blurring of the lines. Like, it seems like Fritz thinks everything's a goddamn shoot, and I thought that was good because that's how I interpreted wrestling when I was a child and into my youth. It was heavily concealed to the point where that's why it was so goddamn good, because you didn't have 12 guys in California, pardon my French, but I'm French, sticking their thumbs up each other's ass, okay? Now, if you're a non-wrestling fan or you're not informed, there was these gentle fucks in California sometime in the last 10 years. Some of the most successful wrestlers of the last 10 years, sadly enough, who did some type of thumb in the ass train. And I took great issue with it. You can discover me and a certain NXT wrestler at the time, Chris Hero, debating this nonsense. Cassius Ohno, it's on Reddit. But I took issue with it then, and I take issue with it now. So you wouldn't see Kevin and Kerry and David Von Erich sticking their thumbs up the Freebird's ass. You'd see them beating the fuck out of each other, okay? That's the goddamn difference. So the wrestling fans of today who are brought up on this saccharine WWE nonsense, the Miz being eaten by zombies, the fucking butterfly belt, all this horse shit, they didn't grow up with the fucking lines blurred. It's all been a goddamn comic book freak show to you fucks. But for fans like me, we remember when it was goddamned legitimate, okay? Anyway, actually the butterfly belt was good. I liked that. But the point is, I mean, having a butterfly on it, I mean, it's a little demeaning to these hardworking women. Any fucking way. What else about this? Did I have any new discoveries in this movie? I think I just enjoyed it more the second time. Because, like I said, now I'm looking, and I think other people might learn to do this as well. This is a movie, if you go in with a bunch of expectations or what you want to see, because you know the real story, and then you don't see some of the things. Well, why wasn't Iceman King Parsons versus Buddy Jack Roberts in a hair versus hair match in this movie? Well, look, assholes, if you're looking for all the things that aren't there and you're upset that they're not there, you're not going to appreciate what is there, obviously. Now, we always come back to this. Chris Von Erich. Chris Von Erich is getting more attention by not being in this movie than he ever did in his whole fucking career. Now, I'm not trying to decipher or shit on Chris or his spirit, okay? I do have a lot of respect for the gentleman. And I do feel that watching this movie a second time and knowing some of these riddles of this Chris controversy, I believe the gentleman's name is Sean Durkin, had a copy of the script, a version of the script, a draft, as they say in the business, of the script, with Chris Von Erich's representation for 5 years before he finally had to say, I'm sorry to the world, I have to eliminate Chris from this story because it's too heartbreaking to have yet another death, and it's clogging up the system of the screenplay, and it's not going to work. And he had to make that tough, creative decision. Well, I believe in my research, I have learned that Chris Von Erich, in fact, broke his arm throwing a drop kick, and that was Chris Von Erich in real life. In the movie, that situation gets transferred to Mike. So, in my very first fucking Mike's Instant review of this movie about 2 weeks ago, I blatantly said that one thing they could have done, which they didn't do, is they could have merged the names and had a character named Michael Chris. Well, doesn't that sound nice? And they could have called him Mike for short, but have the character named Michael Chris. You kind of merge those two characters. Yes, you're not, playing God here. They're not. These are based on true events, inspired by true events, not a literal interpretation. There's too much story in this movie for a 2.5. It's actually over 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 18 minutes. Okay. So you don't have time to go into Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez losing their hair in fucking Texas Stadium, or General Skandor Akbar, the missing link in Sunshine. All these wonderful things we can't go into great detail, not we, but the filmmakers, because it's 2 hours and 18 minutes. And further fucking more, this is not a wrestling movie. It's a movie with a wrestling backdrop. It's a survival movie. It's a family movie. It's a tragedy. And it's a story of triumph for Kevin, for living and for carrying on this Von Erich name with his family. No Waldos, no Lances. Yeah, it's interesting that Maxwell Jacob Friedman is listed as Lance. But that was probably just another thing that they had written in a script, and it just chop, chop, chop. But they threw you one little, shot of Max in there with the Lance wig. Anyway, I'm tired of doing these reviews, and then as soon as I push stop, I remember something important that I wanted to discuss. The Bruiser Brody guy I thought was good in this. I mean, he's not in it a whole lot. Now, had they had filmed or included a scene with David's death in Japan, that would have been interesting, because apparently Bruiser Brody was there. And we see in the montage here, so you got to keep your eyes on this montage stuff, because Brody, the character of Brody, is feeding Carrie a lot of pills in this thing, which I didn't really pick up on the first time, but it's almost like, and the foreshadowing, the opening breakfast table scene, when David, Fritz has already given Mike a hard time about his physique. David says, "Don't worry, Mike, I'll always have your back. Don't worry, Mike, I got your back." And Fritz says, "Well, you're not going to be there forever, David," or something like that. "You're not always going to be there for him, David," is what Fritz says. It's very all foreshadowing. So I think it's a great movie. I think if this might help some of you hardcore fucks who are trying to make this thing something that it's not, like basically a documentary, okay, because you don't understand the difference between a documentary and a narrative film based on true events, this might help you. Think of this film, or the characters in this film, as like, some type of parallel universe. Like, this is a different Von Erich family. Like, if this was a different family altogether, if they didn't even have the Von Erich name attached or the representations of the Von Erichs from the 80s, how would you enjoy the movie then? If you weren't expecting this movie to be a scene-by-scene, moment-by-moment reenactment of what you've already experienced as a fan, then how would you interpret this movie differently? Would you enjoy it more if it wasn't tied into your memories of the truths? So this is where a person like myself really has the advantage in life, because I'm able to separate my fucking intelligence and my memories of all the things that actually happened from this, based on true events, recreation of events. I'm able to separate. Yes, I understand that in real life there was Chris Von Erich. In real life, Kerry Von Erich had the title for 2.5 weeks, the NWA World title, and he didn't lose his foot till 2.5 years later. In real life, the World Class Championship Wrestling seceded from the NWA. That's a huge thing they could have talked about that they didn't. That after all these years of the Von Erich family chasing the NWA World title through Fritz and through all his sons, that 2.5 years later, after Kerry gets it and loses it, they just leave the NWA altogether and they try to go out on their own. That could be a goddamned episode. I wouldn't even say a feature film. It's not, no offense, but it's not a big enough story to be a feature film. it's a big enough story to be a 45-minute episode of a series. That's what that is, assholes. So anyway, I just think it's a wonderful goddamn thing that this movie is playing in the theaters. If you saw it once, see it again. I know a bunch of you assholes will just sit there and watch it on fucking streaming or whatever the fuck. Or, I want to see that. This is what I hate about people. They always say things like, oh, I want to go see that. I want to go see that. Then you talk to the asshole a month later. Hey, did you see that movie? Did you see Top Gun Maverick like you said you were going to go see it? Oh, no, but I want to see it. Yet they never fucking go to the theater and see the goddamn movie. But they always want to see the movie. They just never actually go and fucking buy a ticket and see the goddamn thing. People are such pieces of shit. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I enjoyed the film. Hopefully you did too. Very shocking announcement. I don't even want to say the shocking announcement, but if you're not subscribed by now, subscribe. I'm not sure if I'm going to put this on one Mike Messier, one Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan YouTube channel, or both. But there's a very shocking announcement that's coming. And I don't want to jinx it, but it has something. I'll say this as a titillation and a teaser. This has something to do with the Iron Claw film, okay? And that's all I'll say for this shocking announcement, this shocking situation. But in any event, I enjoyed the film. I gave a big kudos. I probably enjoyed it more the second time around. I once again went to the Regal Cinema. I'm choosing to go to the theater in town. Then this is a good town for movie theaters, Jacksonville, Florida, because it's like this old-time 1997 screen. Like the auditorium does not have reclining seats. It's not Dolby sound. It's like a pretty, aged type of cinematic experience. And I could just as easily go to Cinemark or whatever the fuck, AMC, for a better screen and sound. But I feel like seeing the movie in this less than perfect environment, and it's not bad, it's just not good. It makes me feel like the movie is more authentic because it feels like it's older or some such nonsense. So yes, they do have Mike breaking his arm with the drop kick in this movie, which is actually something that happened with Chris. So there you go. Like I said, if they had consulted me, which they didn't even know who the fuck I was, I would have said, name the character Michael Chris, and maybe these asshole wrestling fans will forgive you. But maybe they won't. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that I learned, and I've already known this. No matter what you do with this movie, or any movie based on true events, and probably, if there was some baseball movie, 42, 5 or 6 years ago was a great one. If you had, whenever there's a story based on true events, the sticklers, the hardcores, are going to get their panties in an uproar if you don't follow the letter of the law. That's why something such as this frivolous Anyone But You movie I saw last week, that's why that has an advantage, because people aren't expecting any truth. It's just a rom-com with a very attractive woman in it, okay? The Sydney Sweeney, for Christ's sakes. So anyway, folks, did I fucking entertain you yet? I have had a lot of nice feedback on my other reviews. I guess that's why I did another one. I'm trying to squeeze this fucking Iron Claw movie for all the views and subscribers I can get, because it seems to be a hot topic. Some people have commented nicely. I've watched one commenter said, I've watched every review of the Iron Claw since it came out, and yours is the most even-handed review, or the most reasonable review. So I do appreciate that. I'm just laughing for the sake of laughter. But yes, I appreciate you joining the fun. And that's it. But stay tuned. If you're not a subscriber, then subscribe, or don't. But if you do subscribe, and if this wonderful surprise comes to be, you'll see it. And like I say, I don't want to jinx it by stating what it is, but it is Iron Claw related. And if it does happen, it will be happening within 2 weeks. I will say that. So hopefully it'll happen. I just don't want to jinx it, okay? I don't want to have the Von Erich curse me, okay? Anyway, what else did I say? Oh, that song. Is that a Rush song, that I Want to Live That Way? Is that a song by Rush? Or I really like that song that Mike plays in this movie. Also, for me, it's like They're creating a mood. They're creating an era, recreating back when people did not look at their phones all the time, like I'm doing right now. Back when people did not have the goddamn internet to give them all the answers in the world. It was just a different situation, folks. It wasn't even that long ago. But with all these advanced technologies and short attention spans and idiots running around, it's just a different thing. Like when these kids, the Von Erich boys and Pam, steal the truck and go to the college party so Mike can play his music, that's like a big deal, and I'm kind of sitting there and I'm feeling like, oh no, are they all going to get grounded? Is Dottie or Doris going to be sitting there with a frying pan to whack them upside the head when they all come home? And no, but they just got away with it because that's how things were back then, okay? So anyway, you have this feeling like that movie, whatever the fuck, the fucking where all the fucking they're getting paddled, dazed and confused. It creates a mood. It creates an environment. Things are not always a facsimile of how real life was. What I think the filmmakers did successfully here and in other films is create a mood. Okay, a mood. And yes, you have to play a little fast and loose with the legalities. The facts. I mean, look, I don't need Watch Mojo to tell me all the goddamn things that are incorrect in this film with the timeline. Harley Race was not in his fourth NWA World title reign when he lost to Ric Flair. That was his seventh. Now, in this movie, you could say, well, we don't really know, what year it is when Race and Kevin Von Erich fight at the beginning. And David comes in with the promo, and then we go to see Harley Race and Ric Flair. Is that supposed to be soon after each other, or is that years apart? Also, I had a little bit of a Mandela effect myself in this film, folks. I thought the first time I saw this movie, there was like some type of reenactment scene with little Jack dying in the backyard. But in this movie, that's not in there, and I know it's because of the Rusty Baker documentary. I think, or is it not? I don't know. I'm perplexing myself because I thought that in this movie they had like a flashback of little Jack dying in the fucking snow and the fucking electricity and all that. The first son that died, was that in the Rusty Baker documentary? I mean, I did take a momentary bathroom break during this thing the second time, but I didn't think it was in that moment. So I don't know if I've just imagined a whole other scene or if that was in the Rusty Baker doc on YouTube or whatever the fuck. Also, the first time I saw this movie, I could have sworn that I saw numbers across the screen, like when Kevin fights Ric Flair. I thought it said a lower third, meaning the fucking words on the screen. I thought it said 1986. And tonight that I watched it, I didn't see that. So I don't know if I've entered some type of Mandela parallel universe thing in the last week where some of the things that I remembered the first time are no longer in the film, or just my memories playing jokes on me or whatever the fuck. Well, folks, there's a strange man walking through the parking lot. I think that's my cue to call this a wrap. MikeMessier.com. If you want to be a friend, you can buy my books. I have books for sale, Fight or Play Basketball. A few people bought it last month, including someone from Spain, so I appreciate that. And my good buddy there, Adam DeMoy, bought not one but two of my books. What a wonderful gentleman. My film book, how to go basically from 0 to 5 in the film world. Just go to Amazon, put Mike Messier film book under books. It should come up. It's got a very long title. Art and War of Directing Student Low Budget and No Budget Films, blah, blah, blah. It's basically a 40 fucking word title of a book. That was a big error. I'll have to write a book about how to title your books better because that one, it's a good title. It's just too long. Anyway, that's it. MikeMessier.com. Thanks for watching. One Mike Messier for Mike Sends to Movie Reviews. One pro wrestling and sports fan for the pro wrestling stuff. If you're saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, you seem to be an expert on everything. Well, you can also watch my wrestling movie, Wrestling Son, which is actually from the perspective of Jack Von Erich in a hypothetical situation of reincarnation. I also explain that artistic choice in the Wrestling Son director's interview. You can find that on YouTube. And so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Old school wrestling fans, you might like my Ox Baker One of the Boys movie, my AEW clips, my NXT still photography. They're all floating around the internet. They're all in YouTube world. So you just have to dig around One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan and so forth, and One Mike Missy. You'll see all these wonderful things, or you won't. You know what I mean? So it's up to you. You've heard me speak of this, and now it's up to you to take action. Goodbye, good night. God.